At the very beginning of the story, we are introduced to the female lead Huiwen. She is sitting completely alone, lost in her thoughts and visibly distressed. Her face shows deep worry and confusion. The reason soon becomes clear: she has just discovered that she is pregnant. This news shakes her completely. Her mind keeps returning to a single night that happened only a few weeks earlier, a night she spent with a man she barely knew. Everything about the situation feels overwhelming, unclear, and frightening. As she struggles to process what has happened, the story shifts back in time to reveal how everything began. Several weeks earlier, Huiwen arrives at a matchmaking event. This is not something she chose for herself. In reality, her best friend Morin was supposed to attend, as Morin's parents were eager for her to meet a wealthy and suitable partner. However, instead of going, Morin secretly sent Huiwen in her place. Huiwen has absolutely no interest in marriage or dating. She convinces herself that she will simply enjoy a drink, spend a little time there and leave without getting involved. She takes a seat at one of the tables, trying to blend in. Soon after, a woman approaches her and hands her a form, asking her to write down the qualities she desires in a future husband. Huiwen finds the idea almost absurd and quietly thinks to herself that she has no intention of ever getting married. At that exact moment, she receives a phone call from her strict senior at work, Bangsun. Bangsun informs her that an important project must be completed and submitted by Monday. Huiwen is stunned, as she believed they still had an entire month to prepare. Despite her attempts to explain, Bangsun refuses to listen and ends the conversation. As Huiwen turns around, she suddenly spots Bangsun at the same event, there for her own blind date. Panicking, Huiwen immediately tries to escape before she is noticed. In her rush, she accidentally crashes into a man she has never seen before. This man is Dujun, the male lead. Earlier that same evening, Dujun had also arrived at the event, accompanied by his assistant and close friend, Ko. His presence there is not by choice. His mother had insisted that he attend and find a potential partner, but Dujun has no desire to get married. He is only there to satisfy her demands and avoid further pressure. Before the evening even begins properly, Dujun suddenly feels unwell and rushes to the restroom due to stomach discomfort. When he returns, his appearance immediately draws attention. People around him cannot help but stare because of how strikingly handsome he is. Trying to avoid attention, he quietly puts on his glasses and prepares to leave. That is when Huiwen collides with him. In her desperation to avoid being seen by Bangsun, she grabs his hand and uses him as a shield. Dujun is confused and asks her to let go, but she pleads with him to help her. Without thinking, she even pinches his cheek and drags him along, making the situation even stranger. Dujun eventually pushes her away, clearly irritated, and attempts to leave. Huiwen notices that she has left a red mark on his face and feels guilty. Wanting to apologize, she rushes to get him a drink. However, things only get worse when she slips and spills the juice all over him. Later, Dujun is seen in his car wearing a simple and unusual outfit, a casual t-shirt with a smiley face. His assistant finds it amusing because Dujun is normally very formal and would never wear something like that. They begin discussing why he refuses to consider marriage. Dujun explains that he is too busy with work and does not want to deal with emotional complications. Meanwhile, Huiwen meets Morin and tells her everything that happened. They laugh about the awkward situation, but Huiwen firmly states that she will never agree to such a favor again. Morin teases her and suggests that she should start dating seriously. Huiwen insists that she already has plenty of options, but Morin reminds her of a memory from their college days. Back then, Huiwen had gone on a date, and when the boy tried to hold her hand, she reacted by hitting him. Even in the present, Huiwen defends her reaction, saying that it was inappropriate for him to act that way on a first date. Morin laughs and tells her that she is far too conservative and needs to change her perspective. Surprisingly, Huiwen admits that she actually has feelings for someone. Morin is completely shocked by this revelation. The two of them celebrate by drinking excessively, trying various kinds of beer. Huiwen, who has a deep appreciation for beer, enjoys the experience and even takes photos of the bottles to share with her coworkers. The next morning at work, Huiwen becomes the subject of gossip. Everyone knows she has expertise in beer, yet she was not selected for an important beer-related event in Germany the previous year. Bangsun still holds a grudge about it. During a meeting, Bangsun discusses sales performance. Since Huiwen has already completed her tasks, Bangsun redirects her frustration toward another employee. Huiwen steps in and defends her colleague, boldly declaring that she will secure a place in the Germany program this time and significantly improve their sales. Her confidence surprises everyone. Later, Huiwen meets her longtime friend Mino. Their relationship goes back many years. A flashback shows a moment from their youth when he cared for her after she injured herself, highlighting their close bond. In the present, Huiwen seeks his advice for her work challenges. Mino brings up the topic of her attending a matchmaking event, which she quickly denies before explaining the truth. He then asks her why she is so opposed to marriage. Huiwen reveals that her childhood was shaped by constant conflict between her parents. Eventually, her father left, leaving emotional scars that made her distrust relationships entirely. Mino gently reassures her that what happened was not her fault. He then asks her an important question: if someone truly loved her and treated her well, would she still reject them? Huiwen is left thinking deeply about this. At the same time, Dujun's family is shown discussing him. His parents are frustrated with his refusal to marry, believing it is connected to past events. His sister-in-law, Jonggum, enters and challenges them, questioning why they are forcing him if he is content being single. Back in the present timeline, Huiwen experiences emotional turmoil after discovering that Mino is involved with Morin. This realization breaks her heart. As she sits alone in the rain, crying, Dujun unknowingly splashes water on her with his car. Although they do not fully recognize each other, she vents her frustration at him. In response, he calmly gives her a large sum of money as compensation before driving away. Their lives continue separately, but fate keeps bringing them closer. Eventually, they meet again at a bar where Huiwen teaches Dujun how to properly enjoy beer. For the first time, he experiences its true taste and is genuinely surprised. They spend the evening together, sharing drinks and conversations. As the night progresses, their connection deepens. Huiwen talks about her dreams of studying abroad and creating her own beer brand, while Dujun admits that he has never had personal dreams of his own. In a moment of emotional closeness, Huiwen kisses him and he does not resist. The night leads to them spending time together at a hotel. The next morning, Huiwen wakes up filled with regret and confusion. Misinterpreting a situation, she assumes Dujun is already in a relationship. Feeling ashamed, she leaves quietly, leaving behind the money he had given her earlier. Dujun later wakes up and finds the money, realizing that she is the same woman he has encountered multiple times. This realization sparks his interest and he begins searching for her. Weeks pass and both of them remain busy with their lives. However, Huiwen begins to feel unwell. After visiting a doctor and taking multiple tests, she discovers that she is pregnant. The news shocks her completely. When Dujun and Huiwen meet again at the hospital, the truth begins to unfold. Misunderstandings are clarified and Dujun realizes the full situation. He asks whether the child is his and immediately offers to take responsibility, even suggesting marriage. Huiwen is stunned by his sudden proposal. Unsure of what to do, she hesitates. Dujun then changes his approach, suggesting a contractual arrangement instead, but this only frustrates her further. As she walks away, he manages to get her contact information. Later, he reflects on the situation alone, torn between different choices. He considers what his life would look like if he simply provided financial support versus committing to a relationship. Both options seem complicated and he feels trapped, unsure of what decision to make. At one point, Huiwen finds herself sitting alone in a bar trying to distract her thoughts. Out of habit, she moves to order a drink but suddenly freezes. The realization hits her: she can no longer drink alcohol. The situation she is in has changed everything about her daily life. Before she can fully process her thoughts, someone unexpected appears beside her. It is Jonggum. Without hesitation, Jonggum looks directly at Huiwen and asks a question that completely shocks her: whether she is pregnant. Huiwen is stunned, unable to understand how she could have figured it out so quickly. Jonggum calmly explains that it is obvious just by looking at her. She speaks in a tone that seems casual but carries hidden intention. Jonggum then begins to advise Huiwen, telling her that she does not need to keep the baby. She insists that Huiwen's own happiness should come first, suggesting that having a child might only complicate her life further. She even shares a personal story, saying that she herself became pregnant at a very young age and has lived with regret ever since. Huiwen listens carefully, her mind already filled with doubt and confusion. However, what she does not know is that this encounter is far from accidental. In reality, Jonggum had already gathered detailed information about Huiwen through her assistant. She had learned everything: her background, her situation, and even her pregnancy. This meeting was planned deliberately. Jonggum approached her with the intention of influencing her decision. Later, when Huiwen returns home, her emotions are in complete turmoil. She sits quietly, overwhelmed by everything she is facing. On one hand, she has always dreamed of going to Germany and building her career. On the other, she now carries a responsibility she never expected. She feels lost, unable to decide which path to take. Meanwhile, Dujun attempts to reach out to her through messages, but she does not respond. Her silence leaves him confused and unsettled. As he sits alone, he looks at a photograph of his late brother and begins to reflect on his past. He speaks quietly, almost as if confessing, saying that he once destroyed a family. Because of that, he questions whether he has the right to start a new one. His thoughts drift back many years. He remembers a time when he and his brother went hiking together. His brother spoke about his happiness, about how he felt fulfilled simply being with his loved ones. It was a peaceful memory filled with warmth. Returning to the present, Dujun feels a deep sense of sadness. Not long after, Sihin visits him. She speaks honestly, telling him that he no longer needs to feel responsible for her. She worries that his refusal to start a family is somehow connected to her existence, and that thought burdens her. Her words leave a strong impact on him before she quietly leaves. The next day, Huiwen continues to struggle internally. At that same time, the results for the Germany selection are announced. To everyone's surprise and joy, Huiwen has been chosen. Her coworkers celebrate enthusiastically, congratulating her on the achievement. However, despite the excitement around her, Huiwen cannot share their happiness. Her mind is elsewhere, constantly circling back to the question of what to do about the baby. Her supervisor notices her lack of focus, sensing that something is not right. Elsewhere, Dujun prepares for work. His assistant playfully teases him, noticing that he seems unusually well-dressed, almost as if he is preparing for something important. During their elevator ride, Dujun casually reveals that he might be getting married. This completely shocks his assistant, who can hardly believe what he is hearing. At the office, Huiwen suddenly sees Dujun arriving and panics. She immediately assumes he has come to find her. Acting quickly, she pulls him into a nearby room to avoid being seen. Meanwhile, his assistant wanders around searching for him. Inside the room, Huiwen confronts Dujun, asking why he is there. He, in turn, asks why she has ignored his messages and whether she has made a decision. She admits that she is still unsure. Once again, he suggests a contract marriage, but she refuses firmly. She cannot accept a relationship without genuine emotion. Just as the tension builds, someone tries to open the door from outside. Huiwen panics and asks Dujun for help. In the confusion, she reveals that she never saved his number, which is why she did not respond to his messages. Dujun calmly opens the door himself, revealing his true identity as the company's president. Huiwen is left completely stunned. He smoothly covers the situation, making it seem as though he was simply borrowing her phone. As he leaves, he quietly tells her to start answering unknown calls from now on. Later, Sihin approaches Huiwen and gives her warm milk, subtly showing care. She explains that Dujun does want a family, but something is holding him back. She hints that Huiwen will eventually understand the reason. Huiwen reflects on this, wondering what could be strong enough to make someone deny themselves happiness. At the same time, Dujun tells his assistant that he is going to become a father. His assistant is once again shocked, unable to keep up with the sudden changes in his life. Meanwhile, Huiwen speaks with Morin, who asks if she will still go to Germany. Huiwen admits she cannot make a decision yet. She then confronts Morin about something else, the kiss with Miino. Morin avoids the topic, which leaves Huiwen feeling disappointed. Soon after, Huiwen visits her mother. Instead of comfort, she is met with harsh and hurtful words. Their relationship is clearly strained and toxic. Her mother blames her for everything that went wrong in her life, even going as far as saying that Huiwen was an unwanted child who ruined her future. Huiwen, hurt and angry, reveals that she is pregnant. Her mother reacts with shock but quickly tells her to terminate the pregnancy, insisting that otherwise her life will become just as miserable. Devastated, Huiwen leaves and goes to see a doctor. The doctor explains that ending the pregnancy now could mean she might never have another chance to conceive. This child could be a rare opportunity, something that may never happen again. The doctor advises her to take more time before making any decision. As she walks home, she finds Miino waiting for her. Overcome with emotion, she hugs him and begins to cry. He is surprised but gently comforts her. They go to a bar where she tells him everything. He is shocked to learn about her pregnancy and the father's proposal. He reminds her of her long-held beliefs that she never wanted to end up like her parents. He urges her to think carefully. On their way back, she finally asks him about the incident she witnessed earlier. He explains that Morin had been drunk and acted impulsively. He had rejected her. This clears up Huiwen's misunderstanding. Unbeknownst to them, Dujun observes them from a distance. After Mino leaves, he approaches Huiwen and questions her. She brushes him off, but he still offers his support if she ever needs it. As events continue, emotions grow more complicated for everyone involved. Jealousy, confusion, fear, and responsibility all begin to intertwine. At work, tensions rise further when a project leak causes chaos. Huiwen is blamed unfairly and suspicion spreads quickly. Despite the accusations, she accepts the challenge to fix the situation. Over the following days, she works tirelessly, trying to create new solutions. Dujun rejects her ideas repeatedly, pushing her to think differently. At the same time, both he and Mino quietly try to take care of her in their own ways. Eventually, the stress takes a toll on her health. She collapses from exhaustion and is taken to the hospital. The doctor warns that her pregnancy is at risk due to stress and poor self-care. Dujun feels a deep sense of responsibility. When Mino calls, Dujun answers and makes it clear that he is the father setting boundaries. Later, as they see the ultrasound together, something changes. For a brief moment, they both smile, sharing a quiet realization of what lies ahead. On their way out, Dujun protects her from the crowd, showing care without words. Outside, Huiwen meets another pregnant woman who explains how Dujun's foundation has helped her life. For the first time, Huiwen begins to see Dujun in a different light, not just as a cold businessman, but as someone who genuinely helps others. Back in the car, Dujun tells her to rest and assures her that whatever decision she makes about her future, he will support her. Her dreams still belong to her. Meanwhile, Mino begins to suspect the truth about the baby's father. Morin recalls that Huiwen had once confided in her. The father is none other than the company president. She had kept it a secret because she knew Mino would not be able to hide it. And with that, the situation becomes even more complicated, as every character now stands at a crossroads facing decisions that will shape their future forever. At this point in the story, Morin chooses to stay silent, even though she clearly understands more than she lets on. Still, she can't help but ask directly whether he has feelings for Huiwen. He quickly denies it, insisting that his concern is purely friendly, nothing more. His response sounds firm, but there's a hesitation underneath, something he doesn't fully admit even to himself. Meanwhile, Jongyi takes Sihin out to an art gallery. During their visit, she casually brings up the idea that if Dujun ends up having a child, Sihin's position in the family, and her chances of inheriting anything will be seriously threatened. However, Sihin doesn't react the way her mother expects. She remains calm and indifferent, clearly aware of how manipulative Jongyi can be. She understands their dynamic too well to fall into that trap. Not long after, Huiwen discovers that the company's director has been dismissed. It turns out he was responsible for leaking their project. What shocks her even more is learning that Dujun had quietly investigated the situation and handled it himself without ever telling her. He protected her reputation without seeking recognition. This revelation leaves her deeply surprised and thoughtful. On that same day, Huiwen makes a decision that catches everyone off guard. She announces that she will no longer go to Germany. Instead, she chooses to remain where she is and continue pursuing her dream from home. The entire office is stunned. Everyone knows how important that opportunity was to her, how long she worked toward it, yet she gives it up without hesitation. Later, during a company dinner, some colleagues pressure her to drink as a form of apology. She feels uncomfortable and doesn't know how to refuse. Before things escalate, Dujun steps in and drinks on her behalf without making a scene. The atmosphere shifts immediately and people cheer, turning the moment into something lighthearted. Afterward, when they are alone, Huiwen sincerely thanks him. She also tells him she has made up her mind about the baby. She plans to keep it not because of him or any expectation of marriage, but because she refuses to see herself as someone who would abandon her child. One morning, Huiwen has a vivid dream in which her coworkers discover her pregnancy and Dujun publicly proposes to her. The dream feels overwhelming and confusing. She wakes up feeling nauseous, dealing with morning sickness. Shortly after, Morin arrives with a large amount of food. Huiwen is grateful, but Morin reveals she didn't bring it. The food had already been left outside. Huiwen assumes it must be from Dujun and smiles at the thought. At work, she sends him a message thanking him. His reply, however, is blunt and almost dismissive. He claims the food was just leftovers he didn't need. His response irritates her instantly. Later he mentions that pregnant women often like oranges, prompting his assistant to buy them in bulk. When he asks Hyewon about it, she responds sharply that she dislikes oranges and doesn't appreciate being given things thoughtlessly. Frustrated, he orders everything to be taken away. Hyewon later visits a spa using Morin's membership card. Coincidentally, Doojan's mother is there as well, though they don't realize they are speaking to each other. They have a warm and friendly conversation, forming a connection without knowing their true identities. Doojan's mother becomes fond of her and decides she would be a suitable match for her son, completely unaware that they are already connected in a complicated way. As time passes, Hyewon struggles more with her pregnancy. Her emotions fluctuate, she has difficulty eating, and even her work presentations become challenging. Doojan notices all of it. Sehun often steps in to cover for her, helping her avoid unwanted attention. When Hyewon casually mentions craving lobster, Doojan immediately arranges for a renowned chef to prepare a meal for the entire office. Despite the effort, she still cannot eat, which frustrates him. Determined to help, he prepares a special syrup using a recipe his mother once made for him when he was unwell. At the same time, rumors begin to circulate in the office. People notice Hyewon's behavior, her sudden decision to stay, her lack of appetite, and start speculating that something might be seriously wrong with her health. Minok hears these rumors and becomes concerned. He goes to see her, bringing a drink to help. At the same moment, Doojan arrives with the syrup. The tension between the two men becomes obvious. Doojan quickly learns that Minok works at the same company and, driven by jealousy, assigns him an overwhelming workload under the guise of professionalism. One day, it starts raining heavily. Hyewon is caught without an umbrella, but before Minok can reach her, she is already getting into Doojan's car. Inside, he gives her the syrup he made. She smiles, touched by the effort. However, when he receives a call from his mother, he steps out briefly, hiding his true intentions by saying the recipe was meant for Sehun. Later, when he returns, he finds Hyewon unwell with a fever. He helps her inside her home, showing genuine concern. She thanks him but draws a line, telling him not to get too close. She doesn't want to become dependent on him emotionally. Around the same time, she receives another harsh message from her mother, filled with blame and bitterness. Doojan sees it but chooses not to comment. Sehun, on the other hand, visits Jonghi, and their conversation reveals lingering grief over Sehun's father. Sehun acknowledges that Doojan has filled that void in her life, but Jonghi reacts strongly, refusing to accept that anyone could replace her husband. Sehun quietly ignores her, understanding her nature. The next morning, Hyewon feels embarrassed, remembering how vulnerable she was the previous night. When Doojan calls, he tells her he's waiting outside. They are heading out for work-related field research. She rushes to meet him and is momentarily stunned by how good he looks. Without thinking, she blurts it out and he teases her lightly. They travel to a rural area to meet a couple running a farm. Observing their relationship, Hyewon wonders how they have maintained such harmony over the years. Doojan explains that true relationships are built on mutual understanding and emotional support. He then gently tries to discuss her strained relationship with her mother, but she shuts him down, insisting that their conversations should remain strictly about the baby. Meanwhile, Minok goes looking for her at the office and learns she has left with the company president. Suspicion begins to grow in his mind as he connects the dots. When Hyewon returns home, Minok is waiting for her. He confronts her directly, questioning her choices and warning her about the consequences of being involved with someone like Doojan. Before the conversation can escalate further, Doojan appears. He openly admits that seeing her with someone else makes him jealous and that her pain affects him deeply. He questions whether this means he has fallen in love with her. Both Hyewon and Minok are stunned by his honesty. Hyewon quickly puts an end to it, telling Doojan that what he feels is not love but sympathy. She believes his emotions are influenced by what he witnessed between her and her mother. She refuses to accept his feelings and asks him to leave. Later, alone in her room, Hyewon speaks softly to her unborn child, giving it a name and promising that she will not trap herself in a relationship that lacks genuine love. Doojan, on the other hand, struggles with rejection. He spends time at the gym, clearly affected, while his assistant recognizes what has happened without needing an explanation. Back at the office, tension fills the air. Hyewon avoids him completely, keeping interactions minimal. Minok watches everything closely, his own feelings becoming harder to ignore. At the same time, Jonghi and Moon begin plotting another scheme. They plan to involve a famous celebrity associated with the company in a scandal, knowing it will damage the company's reputation and stock value. Doojan starts to reflect on his behavior. After speaking with his assistant, he realizes that his confession may have put pressure on Hyewon instead of reassuring her. Determined to fix things, he approaches her again, this time trying to be more careful. He takes her to the rooftop and admits his feelings honestly, asking whether his confession made her uncomfortable. Before she can answer, they are interrupted and forced into close proximity, creating a tense and intimate moment. He leans in, but she quickly pushes him away, blaming it on her mood swings and leaving abruptly. That night, Huiwen can't stop thinking about him, confused by his sincerity and her own emotions. Meanwhile, her mother struggles with regret over her harsh words but cannot bring herself to apologize. The next day brings another crisis. News breaks that the company's brand ambassador has caused a scandal, damaging the company's image. The pressure mounts quickly, with investors threatening to withdraw support. To recover, Dujun's team decides to launch a new campaign immediately. During a meeting, Huiwen unintentionally suggests Dujun himself as the model. Though surprised, the team agrees it makes sense. He eventually accepts, but only under a condition that remains undisclosed. During the photo shoot, he struggles to express the right emotions until Huiwen steps in, making him laugh genuinely. That moment becomes the key to the entire campaign. Meanwhile, Minok and Morin shop for baby items together, but his thoughts are clearly elsewhere, weighed down by everything happening around him. And so, the story continues with tangled emotions, unspoken feelings, and growing tensions between all of them, each decision pulling them deeper into a situation none of them can easily escape. The following day, the campaign featuring Dujun is released, and it quickly spreads across social media, gaining massive attention. The public reaction is overwhelmingly positive, and the company's sales begin to recover at a noticeable pace. People everywhere start talking about him, admiring his appearance and charisma. Even in a cafe, a group of girls openly comment on how attractive he is, which embarrasses him slightly. Despite the attention, he still chooses to sit with Huiwen, acting as if nothing has changed between them. While they are together, Huiwen orders a cold drink. Dujun immediately objects, saying she should avoid anything too cold for the baby's sake. She casually replies that the baby, whom she has already named Yalma, wants it. This surprises him. He pauses, realizing she chose a name without including him in the decision. She calmly explains that it is her right to decide. After a moment, he admits that the name is actually very cute. Then he reminds her of the condition he had set earlier. In a brief recollection, it becomes clear that his condition was simple but meaningful. Every time she goes for a medical checkup or ultrasound, he wants to be there with her. Back in the present, she resists the idea, arguing that it's unnecessary. He insists he can even wear a mask if she's worried about appearances. Their conversation turns into light bickering, revealing a strange but growing familiarity between them. Elsewhere, Zhangyi is furious that her previous plan has failed. At the same time, Dujun's mother is busy making her own plans. She proudly tells someone that she has found what she believes is the perfect woman for her son and intends to arrange a meeting soon. She is genuinely excited, unaware of how complicated things already are. At the office, rumors begin to circulate. Some employees gossip about a woman who supposedly became pregnant on purpose to secure a future with a wealthy man. Huiwen overhears these whispers. Instead of confronting them, she quietly walks away, clearly affected. Sihin notices her reaction but doesn't say anything immediately. Later, Huiwen meets with Minok and Morin and asks them an honest and vulnerable question. If people find out that she is carrying the company president's child, will they look down on her? Minok reacts instantly, becoming protective and assuring her that no one would dare say anything against her. Morin watches him closely, noticing his strong reaction. After Huiwen steps away, Morin quietly tells Minok that his feelings are clearly more than friendship and warns him not to wait too long before acting on them. Then she leaves, giving him no chance to respond. As Minok walks Huiwen home, a near accident occurs when a scooter almost hits someone. Huiwen instinctively pulls him out of harm's way. This moment triggers a memory from many years ago when she had protected him from bullies during their school days. In that instant, everything becomes clear to him. He realizes that his feelings for her have always been deeper than friendship. He has loved her for a long time, even if he never admitted it. Meanwhile, Morin is alone at home, overwhelmed with emotion. She finally accepts the truth that Minok loves Huiwen. Looking at old photos of the three of them, she allows herself to feel the pain she has been avoiding. The next day, Zhangyi visits the office specifically to provoke Dujun. She warns him that if Huiwen's pregnancy becomes public knowledge, her reputation will be destroyed. The stress begins to affect him physically. He experiences flashbacks and struggles to maintain composure during a business meeting. When it comes time to finalize agreements, he cannot even complete a handshake and abruptly leaves. Inside the elevator, his condition worsens. When the doors open, Huiwen is there. She quickly supports him, preventing him from collapsing. Acting discreetly, she stops the elevator from moving and signals for assistance. Ko distracts the security team while Sihin informs everyone that the elevator is temporarily out of service. This coordinated effort allows Dujun to recover without drawing attention. Later, the two sit together quietly. Dujun attempts to open up about himself, but Huiwen doesn't push him. Instead, she invites him to dinner. At her favorite restaurant, she speaks honestly. She tells him that she doesn't harbor resentment toward him, but when she realized he knew about her painful relationship with her mother, it felt like a deeply personal boundary had been crossed. She admits she reacted unfairly. He listens and smiles gently, and the tension between them begins to ease. That evening, Dujun prepares to take sleeping pills as usual, but he receives a message from Huiwen saying he will sleep well. For the first time in a long while, he sets the pills aside and falls asleep naturally. The next day, the company announces an internal competition to develop a new beer recipe. The atmosphere becomes lively as employees eagerly participate. However, Dujun suddenly recalls seeing Huiwen and Minok's names written together on a wall at a restaurant, which sparks jealousy. Without explanation, he leaves the office abruptly. Meanwhile, his mother gathers more information about the woman she met at the spa, believing her to be an ideal match for her son. She admires the warmth and sincerity the woman displayed and becomes even more determined to arrange a meeting. Huiwen, on the other hand, feels increasingly frustrated. Because of her pregnancy, she can no longer taste beer, making it difficult to create new recipes. She struggles to find a solution. The following morning, Minok picks her up, insisting that public transportation is not suitable for her condition. During the drive, she casually mentions an upcoming medical checkup with Dujun. Minok remains silent, though his thoughts are clearly troubled. At the office, they enter an elevator where Dujun is already present. The atmosphere becomes tense. After Huiwen exits, the two men confront each other directly. Minok declares that he intends to propose to her while Dujun challenges him, suggesting they are both misunderstanding their own feelings. They agree to compete fairly for her attention. From that point on, both men begin trying to anticipate her needs. When she mentions back pain, Minok buys her a massager while Dujun upgrades office furniture for everyone. They bring her gifts, food, and drinks, overwhelming her to the point of frustration. Eventually, she walks away, annoyed by their behavior. One day, she quietly confides that she is craving a specific type of fish that is only available far away. Unbeknownst to her, both men overhear this. They immediately set off in different directions to fulfill her wish, Minok finding a local alternative and Dujun going to extreme lengths to obtain the original dish. When they present their efforts, she becomes upset, questioning why they are competing like this. Their rivalry escalates further when they end up drinking together, eventually passing out. Ko is left to deal with the aftermath, clearly exasperated. Back at the office, gossip continues, but work goes on. Meanwhile, Ko and Sihin grow closer, their bond gradually deepening. Later, Dujun, slightly intoxicated, shows up outside Huiwen's home with bags of food, unsure of her preferences, so he brings everything. He openly confesses that he likes her and wants to do things for her, expressing vulnerability he has never shown before. She listens with a soft smile, not rejecting him outright. The next morning, he wakes up embarrassed, realizing what he said while drunk. He is mortified and tries to process it. At the same time, tensions rise within the company as power struggles intensify. Zhang demands control. But Dujun's father refuses. Meanwhile, Huiwen's mother confronts her again, urging her to terminate the pregnancy. Huiwen firmly refuses, declaring her decision to keep the child. Their argument ends with her mother leaving angrily. Minok later tries to speak with Huiwen about everything, but circumstances interrupt them repeatedly. Huiwen realizes she needs clarity and turns to Morin for support. Morin reflects on her own feelings, recalling how she fell for Minok over the years. She recognizes the emotional complexity of the situation and blames herself for complicating things. During a scheduled checkup, Huiwen goes alone. Minok notices and quietly supports her without intruding. Dujun, delayed by a family emergency, arrives too late and sees Minok by her side. This deeply affects him. After the appointment, Minok finally confesses his feelings to Huiwen directly, admitting he has loved her for a long time. She is left stunned, unsure how to respond. Later, as she processes everything, Morin visits her, bringing baby items and suggesting they spend time together. However, Huiwen avoids any mention of Minok, indicating her inner conflict. Dujun, meanwhile, becomes increasingly unsettled. He overhears discussions about friendship turning into love and reacts strongly, rejecting similar ideas in a work setting. When Huiwen accidentally sends him ultrasound photos, a misunderstanding occurs, leaving both of them confused. Their communication becomes strained again. Despite everything, Dujun tries to reconnect. He asks her to focus on him, even if only for a short time. This moment highlights the unresolved tension and emotional complexity between them, as both continue to struggle with their feelings, responsibilities, and uncertain future. Huiwen goes to a bar out of habit, intending to order her favorite beer, but just as she is about to speak, she remembers that she can no longer drink alcohol. The realization hits her quietly and she hesitates. At that moment, Jayangam suddenly appears beside her, studying her closely. Without hesitation, she asks Huiwen if she is pregnant. The question shocks Huiwen, who wonders how she could possibly know. Jayangam casually claims that it is obvious just by looking at her. Jayangam begins speaking in a calm but persuasive tone, telling Huiwen that she does not have to keep the baby if she does not want to. She emphasizes that Huiwen's happiness should come first, sharing her own experience of becoming pregnant at a young age and later regretting it. While Huiwen listens, the truth behind this encounter is revealed. Jayangam already knows everything. Her assistant had investigated Huiwen beforehand, gathering personal details about her life and situation. Jayangam deliberately approached her, intending to influence her decision. Back at home, Huiwen is overwhelmed with conflicting emotions. She feels trapped between her long-held dream of going to Germany and the unexpected responsibility growing inside her. She cannot bring herself to respond to Dujun's messages, leaving him confused about her silence. Meanwhile, Dujun reflects on his past, staring at his brother's photograph and blaming himself for destroying one family. He questions whether he has any right to build a new one. A memory resurfaces of a time long ago when he and his brother were hiking together. His brother had expressed complete contentment with his life, saying he needed nothing more. The memory only deepens Dujun's sadness. Later, Sihin visits him and gently tells him that he no longer needs to feel responsible for her. She worries that his guilt is preventing him from moving forward and starting his own family. Her words leave him unsettled. The following day, Huiwen is still uncertain about her future when she receives news that she has been selected for the Germany program she worked so hard for. Everyone around her celebrates, but she cannot share their excitement. Her thoughts remain fixed on her dilemma, whether to pursue her dream or keep the baby. Her distraction does not go unnoticed by her colleagues. At the same time, Dujun prepares for work and his assistant Ko jokingly comments that he looks like he is dressing up for a date. In the elevator, Dujun unexpectedly announces that he might be getting married, leaving Ko completely stunned. When Huiwen sees Dujun arrive at the office, she panics and quickly pulls him aside to avoid being seen together. She questions why he has come and why he has been trying to contact her. He presses her for an answer about her decision, but she admits she still does not know what to do. He offers a contract marriage again, but she firmly rejects the idea of being in a relationship without love. Their conversation is interrupted when Bangsun tries to enter the room. Huiwen panics and Dujun calmly opens the door himself, revealing his identity as the company president. Huiwen is shocked, realizing she never knew his true position. He smoothly explains the situation to avoid suspicion, then quietly reminds her to answer unknown calls in the future before leaving. Later, Sihin speaks to Huiwen privately, explaining that Dujun actually wants a family but feels unable to allow himself that happiness because of past guilt. She hints that Huiwen will eventually understand the reason behind his behavior. Meanwhile, Dujun tells Ko that he is going to become a father, leaving Ko overwhelmed by how quickly things are changing. Huiwen confides in Morin, still unable to make any decisions while also confronting her about the situation with Minok. Morin refuses to explain, which leaves Huiwen feeling hurt and disappointed. When Huiwen visits her mother, the encounter turns painful. Her mother speaks harshly, blaming Huiwen for ruining her life and calling her an unwanted child. In a moment of anger, Huiwen reveals her pregnancy, but instead of support, her mother tells her to get an abortion, warning that her life will become miserable otherwise. Hurt and furious, Huiwen leaves. At the hospital, the doctor explains that terminating the pregnancy could make it impossible for her to conceive again. The pregnancy is described as rare and precious, urging Huiwen to think carefully before making a decision. Later, Minok finds Huiwen and comforts her as she breaks down emotionally. When she tells him about the situation, he questions whether she truly intends to marry the father. She denies it, reminding him of her fears about repeating her parents' mistakes. Eventually, he explains the misunderstanding with Morin, clearing up Huiwen's confusion about that night. Unbeknownst to them, Dujun watches from a distance. When Minok leaves, Dujun approaches Huiwen and asks about her decision, but she refuses to engage and tells him to leave her alone. As time passes, Minok begins to realize his own feelings for Huiwen. He reflects on their long history together and recognizes that what he feels is no longer just friendship. Meanwhile, tensions rise at work. Huiwen faces criticism and pressure, while Dujun struggles with jealousy as he watches her interactions with Minok. He tries to help her in small ways, but his actions often come across as controlling or misunderstood. Eventually, Huiwen's health begins to suffer due to stress and she is rushed to the hospital. The doctor warns that her pregnancy is high risk and that she must take better care of herself. This situation deeply affects Dujun, who begins to feel more responsible for her well-being. Over time, Huiwen starts to see a different side of Dujun. She learns about his foundation that supports pregnant women and realizes that he genuinely cares about others. This changes her perception of him and softens her attitude. As their relationship slowly evolves, both Dujun and Minok become more openly invested in Huiwen, creating tension between them. Their rivalry becomes increasingly obvious, with both trying to support and win her attention in their own ways. Eventually, Dujun confesses his feelings, admitting that seeing her with someone else makes him jealous and that her pain affects him deeply. Huiwen, however, insists that what he feels is not love but sympathy rooted in his own unresolved emotions. Despite her resistance, the bond between them continues to grow. They begin to share more personal moments, gradually understanding each other's pain and vulnerabilities. Dujun finally reveals the truth about his past, the traumatic event involving his brother's death, which left him unable to physically hold someone's hand without experiencing overwhelming panic. This confession explains much of his behavior and emotional distance. Huiwen listens quietly and instead of questioning him, simply embraces him, offering silent comfort. In that moment, they form a deeper connection and promise to stand by each other no matter what happens. However, external pressures continue to build. Rumors spread throughout the company about their relationship and public scandals threaten Dujun's position. Faced with the risk of losing everything, he is advised to deny the relationship to protect both himself and Huiwen. Instead, Dujun chooses honesty. At a press conference, he openly admits that he is in a relationship and that the woman is pregnant with his child. He firmly denies the false accusations against him and declares that he will take full responsibility. More importantly, he states that he loves both Huiwen and their child. His words shock everyone and instantly shift public opinion. Huiwen watches from a distance, overwhelmed with emotion as she realizes the depth of his sincerity. Afterward, when she confronts him about his decision, he simply explains that he can no longer hide them from the world. He only spoke the truth. Unable to respond with words, Huiwen embraces him tightly. In the end, Minok comes to terms with the situation. Through his reflections, he understands that Huiwen's happiness with Dujun is genuine, not something forced or dependent, but something that comes from within her. Accepting this, he begins to let go, recognizing that her happiness matters more than his own feelings. Later at the office, Minok approaches Dujun with a calm but sincere expression. He apologizes for everything that has happened between them, the rivalry, the tension, and even the night they drank together. He admits that his behavior may have crossed boundaries, but what matters most to him now is Huiwen's happiness. Looking Dujun directly in the eyes, he asks him to take good care of her from now on. Dujun does not respond lightly. He nods with seriousness and gives his word, understanding the weight behind that request. Meanwhile, rumors spread quickly throughout the office. Everyone is curious about the identity of the woman connected to the president. Speculation fills every corner of the workplace and employees whisper among themselves, trying to piece together the truth. Dujun's father visits him and shares that although the company's stock is beginning to stabilize again, the situation is still fragile. He advises Dujun to formally introduce Huiwen to the family. When Dujun asks how he already knows her name, his father simply replies that nothing happening inside the company escapes his attention. This answer makes Dujun smile faintly. At the same time, Jaehyung is furious that her previous plans have failed. She meets with Moon and together they begin plotting their next move. They decide to win over the board members and call for an emergency meeting, aiming to weaken Dujun's position. Huiwon continues working late into the night on the competition project. Dujun comes to see her, but because other employees are present, he keeps his distance and pretends he is there for work-related reasons. He asks Ko to deliver snacks to both Huiwon and Bangsun, using his own card to pay, while he quietly watches Huiwon from afar without approaching her directly. The next day, Huiwon confidently presents her proposal for the competition. Her team is impressed with her ideas and effort. When Dujun enters the room, their eyes meet and they exchange a subtle smile. Afterward, he informs her that his parents would like to meet her. Though she agrees, she immediately becomes anxious about the meeting, worrying about her appearance and how she will be perceived. Morin takes her out and gives her a complete makeover, helping her prepare for the occasion. When Huiwon finally arrives at the family gathering, Dujun sees her from across the room and is momentarily speechless. He is struck by how beautiful she looks and cannot help but subtly flirt with her throughout the evening, though she pretends not to notice. During the dinner, Dujun's mother asks Huiwon about her work and why she continues working despite her situation. Huiwon replies that she plans to continue as long as she is able, showing her determination. Dujun is surprised to learn that Huiwon had already met his father privately before, something he had not known about. On the way home, Huiwon reflects on how warm and welcoming Dujun's family felt compared to her own troubled family life. Dujun gently tells her that she may have misunderstood her mother. Through a flashback, it is revealed that he had once met Huiwon's mother, who expressed her fear of her daughter suffering the same hardships she did. She admitted that if Dujun truly kept his promises, she would no longer worry. Realizing this, Huiwon begins to reconsider her judgment of her mother. Back in her room, she feels a deep sense of regret and tries to call her. Elsewhere, Jaehyung confronts Dujun's father and demands that Dujun be removed from his position as president. When he refuses, she threatens to reveal sensitive information about Dujun's mental health and his inability to perform simple actions like shaking hands. This shocks his father. A painful memory surfaces. At her husband's funeral, Jaehyung had been secretly suffering, even losing a pregnancy. This loss has fueled her resentment and hardened her actions over the years. Soon after, Jaehyung publicly announces that she has been appointed co-president, claiming that Dujun is mentally unfit for leadership. The office is thrown into chaos. Employees are shocked and confused, unsure what to believe. Sihin steps forward and strongly denies the accusations, but doubts begin to spread. From that moment on, Jaehyung begins undermining Dujun in every meeting, criticizing his decisions and weakening his authority. She also manipulates the competition, secretly redirecting funds and changing the structure to serve her own interests. During one meeting, she tries to force Huiwon to taste beer in front of everyone, knowing it would expose her pregnancy. Huiwon freezes, but Bangsun steps in and takes responsibility, protecting her. Later, Huiwon confides everything to Bangsun, who reassures her and refuses to let her step down from the project. Dujun confronts Jaehyung directly, warning her not to harm Huiwon. Jaehyung responds coldly, saying she has no personal interest in Huiwon but will use her if necessary to control Dujun. Sihin also confronts her mother, begging her to stop. She makes it clear that if Jaehyung continues down this path, she will no longer consider her family. Left alone, Jaehyung trembles with anger. As tensions escalate, Huiwon learns about the upcoming board meeting where Dujun's position is at risk. She insists on knowing everything and becomes determined to support him. To help him emotionally, Huiwon takes Dujun to a group therapy session. There, people openly share their struggles, creating a space of understanding and healing. When it is her turn, Huiwon speaks honestly about her painful relationship with her mother and how she is trying to let go of resentment. She acknowledges that Dujun helped her see things differently. Her words deeply move him and he embraces her, silently expressing gratitude. At the board meeting, accusations are thrown at Dujun, questioning his capability as a leader. Remaining calm, he challenges the process and demands fairness. He is given 2 weeks to prove himself. Afterward, he confronts Moon privately, revealing that he has evidence of financial misconduct spanning many years. Though he lacks proof regarding past accusations against himself, he uses what he has to pressure Moon into reconsidering his position. On the day of the competition results, Huiwon is announced as the winner. Applause fills the room, but Jaehyung immediately accuses Dujun of favoritism. Before the situation can escalate further, an accident occurs. A stage light falls toward Huiwon. Dujun instinctively steps in front of her, taking the hit himself. He is taken to the hospital where he is told to rest. Huiwon stays by his side, refusing to leave. When he worries about the company, she reassures him that she is no longer afraid of public opinion. She knows she earned her success honestly. Back at the office, news spreads about their relationship. While some doubt her, others defend her hard work. Bangsun firmly supports Huiwon, insisting that her achievements are genuine. In the hospital, Dujun watches Huiwon fall asleep beside him. He reaches out toward her but hesitates, still unable to overcome his trauma. When she wakes, she quietly cares for him, feeding him without making a big deal out of it. Their closeness grows naturally. Investigations continue, revealing hidden players and missing evidence. The situation becomes more complex, but Dujun remains determined to uncover the truth. When Huiwon returns to work, she faces criticism, but Minok steps in to shield her from harsh words. She remains calm, refusing to let rumors define her. Eventually, Dujun decides to resolve the competition controversy fairly. Instead of keeping the original results, he offers a transparent public vote. Huiwon agrees, wanting to prove herself openly. Each participant presents a personal story behind their product. Huiwon chooses to share her mother's story, how she once resented her but now understands her struggles and pain. Her perspective reflects her growth and emotional maturity. After hearing this, Dujun tells her that they will visit her mother together. Huiwon is surprised, unsure of what will happen next, but senses that this step may finally bring healing to a long-standing wound. In the present, Morin keeps her thoughts to herself, but she eventually asks a direct question, whether he has feelings for Huiwon. He quickly denies it, insisting that he is only asking out of concern as a friend. At the same time, Yoongi takes Sihin to an art gallery and subtly brings up a sensitive topic. She mentions that if Dujun ends up having a child, Sihin's chances of inheriting the company will likely disappear. Sihin doesn't react strongly. She already understands how her mother operates and refuses to be manipulated by such remarks. A few days pass, and Huiwon discovers that Dujun quietly handled the issue of the leaked project. The office director responsible for the leak has been dismissed, and it becomes clear that Dujun investigated everything on her behalf without telling her. This revelation leaves her deeply surprised and thoughtful. On that same day, Huiwon shocks everyone at work by announcing that she has decided not to go to Germany after all. Instead, she chooses to stay and pursue her goals where she is. The entire office is stunned, knowing how much that opportunity meant to her. That evening, during a company dinner, some colleagues pressure her to drink as a form of apology, putting her in an uncomfortable position. Before she can respond, Dujun steps in and drinks in her place, smoothly diffusing the situation and earning cheers from the others. Later, when they are alone, Huiwon sincerely thanks him. She explains that she has decided to keep the baby not because of him or any obligation, but because she refuses to see herself as someone who would abandon her child. That decision comes from her own sense of responsibility and identity. One morning, she wakes from a dream in which her pregnancy is revealed publicly, and Dujun proposes to her in front of everyone. The dream unsettles her and she wakes feeling sick. Murin arrives with a large amount of food, though it turns out someone else left it outside. Huiwon assumes it was Dujun and messages him to thank him, only to receive a blunt reply saying it was simply leftovers he didn't need. His cold response irritates her immediately. Meanwhile, Dujun tries to be thoughtful in his own way, asking Ko about pregnancy cravings and being told that oranges are popular. He sends a large quantity, only for Huiwon to reject them outright, saying she dislikes oranges and doesn't appreciate being given things carelessly. Frustrated, Dujun orders all the oranges removed, even though Ko had already bought far too many. Huiwon later visits a spa using Morin's membership, unknowingly crossing paths with Dujun's mother, who is behind a curtain nearby. They speak warmly without seeing each other, and Dujun's mother becomes fond of the woman she believes to be someone else, deciding she would make a perfect match for her son. As time passes, Huiwon struggles with emotional ups and downs due to her pregnancy. She finds it difficult to eat, becomes overwhelmed during presentations, and grows increasingly sensitive. Dujun notices everything, though he doesn't always express it directly. When she casually mentions craving lobster, he goes to great lengths to arrange it for her in the office, yet she still cannot eat it. Meanwhile, office gossip begins spreading about her sudden decision to stay and her declining condition. Minok hears these rumors and goes to check on her, bringing a drink. Dujin arrives at the same time, creating a tense and awkward situation. Jealousy grows between them, especially after Dujin learns Minok works in the same company and assigns him an overwhelming workload out of spite. Despite these tensions, Dujin continues trying to care for Huiwen, even preparing a special syrup himself to help with her morning sickness. She begins to see a different side of him, though she remains cautious, insisting she doesn't want to depend on him. Their relationship grows more complicated as emotions deepen. During a work trip, they visit a farm owned by an elderly couple whose strong marriage impresses Huiwen. Dujin explains that true relationships are built on understanding and mutual support. When he tries to discuss her strained relationship with her mother, she shuts him down, setting clear boundaries. At the same time, Minok begins to realize his own feelings more clearly. After years of friendship, he understands that he has always loved Huiwen. This realization comes with pain, especially as he sees her growing closer to Dujin. Eventually, Dujin confesses openly that seeing Huiwen with someone else makes him jealous and seeing her cry hurts him deeply. However, Huiwen rejects his confession, insisting that what he feels is not love but sympathy born from witnessing her struggles. She refuses to enter a relationship based on anything unclear or uncertain. Despite her words, both of them continue thinking about each other constantly. Their connection becomes impossible to ignore even as they try to keep distance. Meanwhile, external conflicts escalate. Scandals hit the company, rivals plot against Dujin, and internal politics grow more dangerous. Through all of this, Huiwen remains caught between her personal struggles, her career, and the growing complexity of her relationships. Eventually, circumstances push both Huiwen and Dujin closer together again. In a moment of honesty and vulnerability, they begin to reconcile emotionally. Their bond deepens, built not on obligation but on genuine understanding and care. As challenges continue to arise, both personal and professional, they learn to support each other more openly. Dujin gradually confronts his past trauma, including the guilt he has carried for years over his brother's death. Huiwen helps him face these emotions, guiding him toward healing. In time, Dujin publicly acknowledges their relationship and takes full responsibility despite the risks to his reputation. Huiwen, moved by his sincerity, stands by him as well. Their journey continues through conflicts, misunderstandings, and external pressures, but they grow stronger together. Eventually, they face family opposition, corporate battles, and personal insecurities, overcoming each challenge step by step. In the end, Dujin proposes sincerely, finally able to hold her hand without fear, symbolizing how far he has come. Huiwen accepts and they begin a new chapter together. A year later, their daughter is born healthy and loved by everyone around them. Life settles into a new rhythm filled with family, work, and small moments of happiness. Relationships heal, friendships evolve, and even past conflicts begin to soften. On their child's first birthday, surrounded by loved ones, they stand together as a family. In a quiet, unexpected moment, Huiwen feels another wave of nausea, and Dujin realizes with surprise and joy that they may be expecting another child. With that warm and hopeful realization, their story comes to a close, full of growth, forgiveness, and the promise of an even brighter future.